scope, thinking about the ability to participate and to become a part of a community, I think that a residential smaller college is a really important consideration for a number of you. Oftentimes students will say, what's really attractive to me about the liberal arts undergraduate experience is the portability of that experience to then move on to the large research university or comprehensive university for a graduate professional school experience. So I think that as Mr. Molden suggested, as you begin thinking about these lists, to be able to have a combination of the types of 3 schools that are here tonight really will serve you well, and certainly as you visit, because frankly colleges are like people. We have personalities. And I think for so many of you, you'll get on the campus. We hear all the time about the families that will arrive in a parking lot and a student, this isn't representative of my place necessarily, but just in talking with colleagues, the family will pull into a parking lot and a student will say, I can't get out of the car. What do you mean you can't get out of the car? I just know I can't go to school here. Okay, one would say that's revealing and that is a teachable moment, right? Because there's a sense of preference and there's a certain sense of type. And then there will be the visits where, you'll all get out of the car and, your son will absolutely, take the lead and, connect to the admissions office, and you'll be able to see that there's a real comfortability in terms of their ability to move about the campus. And so that in your mind might be one of those winning moments, right? And that you know that that's a school or a school type that's likely to stay on the list. Let me talk a little bit about admissions, and I was really interested in the idea that, most of us as parents, we applied using paper applications. We would complete those individual applications, we would mail them to the respective schools, and hope within maybe 6, 8, 10 plus weeks that we might receive some type of response. Back in 2002, admissions offices were talking about how do we change our business model, because at that time about 15 to 16% of our applicant pools were beginning to apply online. And there was still this idea of, we're fascinated by your electronic application, but we're still really nervous about hitting send and where that goes. So let me just say the degree of confidence has improved significantly, because for all of us this year, about 99.9% of our pools will come in electronically. So that has really been a change for many of us in terms of how we receive applications, and in our case, how we read applications. We read exclusively online, and the days where we used to have these folders that would pile up in several stacks in our offices and on our desks, that's changed. You simply need a large monitor or dual monitors. For me, a legal pad and a couple of pencils, and open up student records, and there's an opportunity for us to get to know who you are. At Dickinson and at a number of liberal arts colleges, we're exclusively using the Common Application. And we just, for those of us that are members of the Common App, we just received word from the Common Application organization this last week that for your class, as you all begin applying to college for fall 14, you'll have about 520 schools that are members of the Common Application, which is pretty extraordinary, because this is a group that used to be, just 5 years ago when I rotated on the board of directors, we had about 270 members of the Common App. Private institutions only, range in size and scale and selectivity, pretty great, but these were reflective of private only. Well, a number of the large public institutions are now members of the Common App, and so the ease of applying to college for so many of you, you're going to find that the schools you're interested in fall on that Common Application list. So that's a nice thing. You'll complete that application one time, and then you'll submit it to the respective places of interest, and then you'll dig a little more deeply and find that many of those places might have what's called a supplement. So you'll have the application, you'll submit your transcript, a personal statement, an essay, a couple of letters of recommendation, and then likely the supplement for that respective college or university that will be asking questions that are a little specific to their particular school and not common in nature. It might have to do with, are you a legacy? Did you have a family member graduate from that respective institution? And oftentimes there will be additional short answer essays or questions that are asked of you. And oftentimes that's an opportunity for our students, that's an opportunity for you to be able to connect with that respective place. It might ask a little bit about what type of research have you done about our school and what's particularly of interest as you think about applying. Why would you like to attend? Why did you find a fit. And so the opportunity to do a little bit of research and certainly that visit, definitely an asset as you imagine sitting down and applying. At Dickinson, for this most recent admission cycle, which we're now in our final round of review, we've received just over 6,000 applications and expect to admit about 38% of those students who have applied. And we'll have a first-year class of 600. At Dickinson, we have Early Decision 1 and Early Decision 2, Early Action, and Regular Decision. And so how do you decide what application plan of interest? Well, oftentimes, because of the thorough research that students and families are doing well before the senior year, oftentimes students might walk into that senior year and think, I've got a number of good choices in terms of the schools I'm considering, but I've got a first choice school and they have an early decision plan and I've decided that I'd like to apply first choice. It's a binding program at most schools, most liberal arts colleges. It's a binding early decision agreement, which means that if you've been accepted early decision to your first choice school, then you've agreed to withdraw the applications to the other schools that you've submitted and you'll deposit at that respective place. Now the win, it's really win-win. The win for the young men is that you go into 8th semester high school locked in, right? You have your college decision behind you, you've decided your first choice, and you've deposited and you're done. It's exciting for the college because they've got a student for whom the college is the first choice signed up, if you will, for that next year's class. That deadline usually comes in November, notification usually comes mid-December. On the other hand, a student might decide to apply early action. And we were talking about at dinner just before the swing to early programs, whether it be early decision or early action. Early action might be attractive to a number of you because the opportunity to apply early, receive notification early, which usually those application deadlines, November, late November, early December, notification usually comes late January, early February, but it's a non-binding agreement, which means you have until May 1, the National Candidates Reply Date, to make your decision. So ED, binding, you deposit within 2 weeks of acceptance. Early action, you'll oftentimes receive your admission notification up to 9 weeks before the May 1 National Candidates Reply Date. So you have ample time to continue your research, to perhaps visit the schools again, to get a sense of your decision where you'd like to attend. And then lastly, regular decision, which is the pool that we're all reading right now. And the regular decision pool is essentially how we will balance out the class. What are the unmet needs? What are the unmet capacities? As we enroll early decision applicants, as we've admitted our early action students, where are those buckets? Where are those parts of the class where we're attempting through these final admissions offers to round out? You know, it's interesting, every year I have great conversations with families about what we're looking for. And, you know, a first year class of 600, there are a couple of different ways that you can get to it. You know, if you're looking for a well-rounded class of 600, we could expect through our sophisticated enrollment modeling to predict the number of acceptances that we might need, to predict the number of first year deposits we would need to land on a first year class of 600. I have a good friend, a fellow dean at a liberal arts college in Ohio, who always says, predicting who will accept our offer of admission is like diving from 30,000 feet into a bathtub, right? It's becoming increasingly challenging because we realize that at 17, 18 years old, there's so many different colleges, so many different interests, so many different experiences. And so predicting who comes is certainly a challenge as we move through admissions committee. With every offer of admission that we extend, we want the student to accept our offer. You know, it's simply not, you know, you've done extraordinary work, we'd like to extend this offer. If you've done extraordinary work, we'd like to extend this offer of admission, and it's with every hope that you'll accept our offer and that you'll land on our campus. Because we think what you bring to our program, what you bring to our college is of great value. We think you'll be successful here, and we think you'll graduate as a really devoted alumnus. So those are the conversations that we have in committee. But going back to that 600, we can have 600 really well-rounded students, right? In terms of talent, academic prowess, special interests, 600 that are really well-rounded. On the other hand, you can get to a first-year class of 600 by having 50 who are perhaps very, very deeply dedicated to scientific research and have spent time in a lab. Maybe another 50 who have been deeply committed to sustainability and environmental initiatives on your campus. Maybe another 150 who will play a varsity sport and field your rosters. Maybe another 50 deeply committed to the performing arts. See what I mean? The cumulative effect of all of those different interests then will build a first-year class of 600. So the idea as you begin visiting campuses through interviews and information sessions, what are the specific needs that you're looking for as you build your next year's class? That's a good way, I think, for families to get a sense of new programs, new areas of interest, new clubs, organizations. In the case of Dickinson, we're introducing varsity squash, men's and women's varsity squash in the fall of 14. So I have to tell you, as we move into the 14-15 admission cycle, squash players, we got to build a roster from the ground up. So that will be a particular nod. Environmental sustainability. We have a very strong Center for Sustainability Education. We're looking for students who are deeply committed to that movement. I got to tell you, if you're an offensive lineman, you've got a special nod in the early decision review this year. So point being, colleges and universities are going to be very forthright in terms of what kinds of talent they're looking for as they build their next class. And then lastly, I talked about online review. The first review is oftentimes by the admissions officer responsible for reading applications in this particular market. And so it's their absolute responsibility to know everything they can about the particular school, about the curriculum, about the trends, about the choices that students have made in terms of rigor, considering performance, how does that student's distribution compare vis-a-vis their classmates. That first application read by that territory admissions officer, usually 22 to 25 minutes in length. And that first review oftentimes will then move to a second review by another member of that regional committee, and then a third review either by the dean or by admissions committee. An application might be read as many times as 5 or 6 times if in fact that application goes to committee, because the regional admissions officer will pass it to the leader of their committee, then 2 different committees will likely read that application, and then it'll reach a final committee. So the idea, I think, oftentimes students lament, we spend so much time on our applications, do you all even read them? Yes, and we are not going to request information from you that we don't consider really valuable and a meaningful part of the application and how we make decisions. So we can talk a little bit more about that process and the question and answering part, but the merits of liberal arts colleges, size. Think about academic program. Again, one undergraduate college with an interdisciplinary approach to the academic program, not a narrow or a more specialized area of interest. Students live on campus, high degree of participation in terms of sport, running for office, club, organization, service component, and certainly in terms of thinking about your alumni loyalties and the strength of those networks, we have found those to be particularly powerful when it comes to internships and job career opportunities.